This episode is brought to you by the Arvada Center, because their first play of the year is a biting dark comedy exploring the complexities of gentrification in our communities. Clybourne Park plays February 14th to March 30th in the Arvada Center's Black Box Theater. It was written as both an unofficial sequel and response to Lorraine Hansberry's famous A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, this play won a Pulitzer, people. It's a razor-sharp satire about the politics of housing, race, and gentrification. Tickets are available now at arvadacenter.org. That's arvadacenter.org.
Today on CityCast Denver, after weeks of rumors, Operation Aurora has begun, with ice raids reported across the metro area on Wednesday. As the story spread online, Denverites hit the streets in the biggest protests of the Trump 2.0 era. So we're talking about the raids, the protests, and how this new resistance is taking shape. Plus, all the other big stories of the week, from a new dinosaur-themed something opening soon in RiNo to the long-awaited Comcast altitude deal. And watch out, this one has got some explicit language. Today is Friday, February 7th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city that had a rough week and has high food costs, so high it can't afford to eat its feelings.
Oh, dang. I mean, I guess it depends on where you go. The taco truck at the end of my block is pretty affordable.
Yeah, bro, I be eating my feelings on a budget, you know?
Noodles are not expensive. Pasta.
For real.
Cheap.
Hey, me and my local Taco Bell on 38th, I've been going there since I was a kid, man.
Oh, my God.
It is $20 at Taco Bell now, and that's kind of crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a taco truck on the end of my block called Tacos El Pastor. It's just what it's called. And it's like $2 a taco.
Good branding.
$3. Yes, just Tacos El Pastor.
So I got to give credit for that opening line. I didn't write that one this week. Normally I do, but this one comes to us
Paul's
from
writer's room.
hopefully from friend of the show JD Lopez, who helped out with the opening line today. But I want to open this up because I know that the listeners are very funny. Always have great takes on the subreddit and the inbox. So if you have an opening line that can make Bree laugh, I will do my best. Denver at citycast.fm. Please email us and I'll try it out.
Join Paul's writer's room. Denver at citycast.fm to apply.
So it's Friday. We're doing our weekly news roundup. It's here, Denver, downtown. It's beautiful, beautiful day. We're here in the 5280 Magazine studios. Bree is here. Hey, Bree.
Hi.
Bree, do you want to comment on the week? Week
that
that was?
Absolutely not. I've been drowning my feelings in Pop Culture Jeopardy. I've been binging Pop Culture Jeopardy in between all of the news to just like soften it a little bit and laugh a little, and I'm going to apply to be on Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I want to apply to be on real life Jeopardy. My entire life.
It's always seemed so hard to me. This one is like right in my lane.
I see.
So,
yeah, maybe topical Jeopardy, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they ask about memes and record labels.
Great idea.
CityCast
Great
Jeopardy.
idea.
Oh my God.
love that idea.
Yes. Okay. We're going to come back to that because we're planning some big stuff this year. That would be perfect, Tim. I love it.
All right. Well, you've heard his voice. We have a great guest today. He is a progressive activist, a former state representative. Welcome back to the show, Tim Hernandez.
What's up? It's good to be back.
Tim, it has been a minute. I think listeners are probably going to be curious what you've been up to since you left the state legislature last year.
Yeah. So the TLDR for folks is that I lost my primary election in June of 2024 because of a corporate-backed, billionaire-backed candidate. And
I talked to him about that, by the way.
Yeah,
I asked him about you.
Did you? What did he say?
Kent Theory. By the way, Kent Theory.
Oh, the billionaire.
He's the billionaire in question.
Supervillain, right? Like, you know.
Paul interviewed.
Some people's perspective. I happened to sit across the table from him and ask him about this exactly. He claims he's not a billionaire. Which for some reason was important.
Yeah,
some of them were very proud of it. But he said, what did he say? He said he had a team of people that gave him a list of recommendations of where to spend his money based on the priorities that he laid out. And I was like, I don't know if Tim is the guy you think he is. And he was like, sometimes we get it wrong.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? I was like, I never had the chance to ask someone like that question.
Your career in politics for that moment.
Wish I would have done my research.
Memo.
Like, give me a break, bro.
I wish I Glad I
Paul
got a
was like,
chance to
I'm
tell
not
you
a
that, Tim.
billionaire either. I feel you.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to
Us
talk
working class folks sitting at this table. Give me a break, crook.
Ooh.
No, straight up, the guy made his money on Medicaid fraud at DaVita, denying people dialysis treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong, I could give a damn if you're a billionaire. You're still a crook. And if you don't do your own research and you just follow your team in politics, then I think that's a unique billionaire experience, is what I'll say.
The billionaire experience in general is very unique.
Anyway, I still hate billionaires and still think that corporations are bad. But I've been up to a lot of kind of local organizing things. I'm currently working for Color Latina, which is Colorado's largest reproductive rights organization specific to Latinas in the state of Colorado.
Cool people.
So we helped pass Amendment 79 to put abortion in the state constitution, to allow public workers to have access to abortion, and to make sure that folks can get their reproductive care. And so now I work for them. I'm working on a real big event in March that is called Latino Advocacy Day. It's a 3-day, 400-person conference. If you're listening and you're Latino, you're brown, and you want to come, you're more than welcome to come and attend. And we get folks, 400 folks from across the state of Colorado to come and talk about our local community issues and go lobby our state legislators. We're gonna have a large march. We're gonna have slam poetry by Bobby the Feet. It's gonna be sick. So yeah, I've been busy. Yeah.
That's awesome, Tim. That sounds like a really cool event. It sounds like a lot of listeners might be interested in doing that. We'll have to check in and get a link when that's ready, and we'll spread the word. That sounds fun.
I got you. Yeah.
Well, we have to address the film crew in the room. This is kind of a weird day for us here on
I'm
CityCast
really hot in
Denver.
here because there's all these lights now.
We're under lights. That doesn't mean that
LEDs.
we are working on a video thing. Hopefully you can see us do the show soon. But this is a special production. Heather and Shane from the city are here. They're making a little documentary about... I can't not look at the camera. But they're here to make a little video about this cool event that we're throwing, Bree.
Yeah. Heyday.
Hey.
March 8th. It's a state fair style party, big event, but it's in the city. It's in the city of Denver. We're celebrating all things Denver. We're going to have really cool carnival games. We have a grandstand stage. We've got drag performer Miss Jessica. We've got a King Penny radio show.
Adults may know her as Jessica Lahore.
Yes, but she's doing a family-friendly version of her performance. Ballet Folklorico. I'm trying to think who else. Us. We will be there.
We're going to be there for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. I might
some
slide
people
by too. That's cool.
You should come by.
You guys gonna have like state fair eating competitions? Like, you gonna
maybe
is there anything like that?
Here's the event I'm excited about. Tim.
Yeah.
We're gonna. Well, I'm actually not allowed to talk about this, but I won't say that there's gonna be a secret costume contest. I'm not gonna talk about it.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not gonna talk about the celebrity
yet.
judges. I'm not gonna mention anything about that.
Wow. Okay. So
I'm not gonna say a word about that. That's not even gonna come up in the show.
You just have to
Edit
stay
it out.
tuned.
Cut this out. Yeah.
Stay tuned for more.
March 8th. HeydayDenver.com. That's where you get your tickets. Cheaper if you're a member. So now might be a good time to become a member.
Then.
Oh boy. All right. Let's get to our top story. We got to talk about this week, and wow, what a week. I think it all boiled down to this moment on Wednesday afternoon where I was scrolling through social media and I was seeing two kinds of videos and images. I was seeing pictures of ice raids, the first official ice raids that hit the Denver metro area all across the metro. And then at the same time, there was this giant protest, thousands of people out at the Capitol protesting the Trump 2.0 era. So that's what we're talking about, is how, where, and when Denverites are resisting, and what exactly are they resisting of this new Trump-Musk order, as I think I'm going to start talking about it, because the Musk piece is... That's new.
Billionaires, man. I'm telling
That's
you.
new.
Super villains.
They got to be friends with each other, because who else is going to be friends with them? Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
They got a lot of friends. Tim, you were at the protests.
Yeah.
What did you see?
Oh man, I walked down with some students. I don't know if you heard, but over 10 Denver public schools walked out and in solidarity with the protests. And I was there, and I saw and witnessed the largest immigrant rights protest since 2006 in Denver. I'm talking a spontaneous, grassroots. No organizations led it. It was just everybody met at the Capitol, and said what they thought. And don't get me wrong, it was largely based around immigrant rights. I spoke with one of the youth organizers and his mom. His name is Romeo. Shout out if you're listening. A 17-year-old kid who is in a baile dancing group and put a flyer on social media that went viral. And, I think it was really beautiful. I saw a lot of young people. I saw a lot of brown folks. I saw a lot of queer folks protesting against Donald Trump, and specifically his violations of trans rights and women's rights, reproductive care. I also think that it should be said that it was really beautiful just to see so many people out. I got there at about 11. And
do you have a crowd size estimate for us, Tim?
I think that there's got to be 5,000 to 6,000 folks that were out yesterday for almost 8 hours. I left at 7:30, and there were still 1,500 folks on the Capitol. Marches that went all the way to the McDonald's on Colfax, almost to the highway. Marches that went all over all day.
I heard someone was arrested when there was some people going out onto I-25, and one person was arrested.
Yeah, I heard similar. And I think regardless of arresting these other pieces, I think it was a really powerful moment that also was underscored by the realities of what we're facing right now. Because as we were out protesting against the very thing that we're talking about, folks over at the Cedar Run Apartments and folks in Aurora. And in case you don't know, it was not just the Denver metro area. ICE executed 7 raids across Colorado, in Thornton, in Greeley, and a lot of places yesterday. And so a lot of folks were arrested on grounds of deportation. We can get into that.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But Bree, I want to hear from you here, because we've been talking about this for weeks. Well, why aren't we seeing this outpouring of resistance and feeling? Ever since November, basically, it's where is this? And then this week, here it was. What do you think changed?
I think it's just becoming more real for folks who haven't been impacted previously. I'm not talking about folks with the immigration situation. That has long been something that they've been concerned about. And folks in the trans community have also been very vocally concerned. But I think other folks in more privileged positions are starting to understand the gravity of what this change has meant with this regime change. And Trump is much more organized this time around, and he's got these plans in place. And I'm just noticing that people are feeling it in a much more tangible way who have maybe been insulated from it previously. And so they're being motivated to act in support of folks who have been marginalized and scared for a long time. I'm just what I noticed is, it's the hashtag resist, pussy hat crowd kind of finally meeting with more leftist people, understanding we're all on the same page more than I think folks realized they were. And I'm just seeing more folks coming out. I was actually genuinely, delightfully surprised by how many folks were posting pictures from the protests that I've never seen at protests before. Friends of mine that have never been politically engaged are feeling motivated. And so I think it's just a matter of the reality of it hitting home in a different way. Colorado's been talked about as a safe haven for all of these different issues. And we're seeing that being played out as not the reality, especially the ICE raids. It's a very clear. I had a friend post, I watched it happen to the apartment complex next to me. I've never seen this before. Kids that go to my kids' school are too afraid to go to school. So parents like me understanding the impacts of this on community members who are feeling it directly, those that are not feeling it directly are now understanding the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I did not see that. I was only out in the evening. I didn't see it at the peak of the protests, when I understand there were a lot more people. In the mid-afternoon, I was out after work around 6 or 7 down by the Capitol. I didn't see the pussy hat crowd. I saw a majority people of color in the audience. I saw a lot of Mexican flags, a lot of Palestinian flags. That's what I saw, underrepresented in terms of white people, I would say. What do you think, Tim?
I would say it was not a whole lot of white folks in what I saw, but I also think that, to Bree's point, it is true. I saw groups that historically, I was really deep with the Palestine movement that took place in Denver, and I did not see a lot of Mexicanos waving Mexican flags or people who were not politicized by that issue. And I saw them working together last night. I saw folks talking about how threats in Palestine and what they're doing to Palestinians mean something to Mexicanos and undocumented immigrants here. And I think it was real clear. And I do, I said in a speech last night around 7:00 that I hope, yesterday was day one of what I'm hoping is an immigrant rights movement, of a movement that can sustainably yield us real changes. And don't get me wrong, I did not say it because movements are romantic. right? There's nothing romantic about thousands of people protesting on the steps of the Capitol while people are being violently deported from their homes, where they're at school bus stops, right? We'll talk about this. Like, there's nothing romantic about those pieces, but it does really demonstrate to us that we have a lot of capacity to start with, which means that we only have more to build. So,
let me ask you too about one other thing I noticed when I was out there again in the evening. Didn't see it at the real heart of it, but I felt like, and this is something that I noticed during the pandemic for a lot of protests, but I didn't expect to see it this week. Masks and scarves, people covering their faces. Is there some kind of chilling effect? Because I feel like if you're not showing your face, you're protecting. You're missing out some of the power, that you could claim.
Tim, you can speak to this more, but I would say this is also something I've seen on social media from, again, folks who are not normally posting about this, basic protest etiquette and things to protect yourself. And that is the biggest one, is covering your face, not wearing logos, not wearing identifying things, not letting people see your tattoos, because facial recognition, all of these kinds of, they're saying take your facial recognition off your phone, so that if the police do take your phone, this is a very basic protest 101, cover your face. Yeah. And I think as more folks get involved in movements who have never been involved in movements before, you're just seeing people do what is being told is the safest way to protest while keeping yourself safe.
Yeah, I would say it's a safety thing too. And it should be undergirded by the context that in Latin America and other places around the world, this has long been a protest practice because of the influence of police and a militarized police state. I think, I was at the first protest that was held over in Aurora a couple Saturdays ago, where it was snowing and still 1,000 people came out. And yeah, you bet we covered our faces. And we did, because the Aurora Police Department was staged at a school. They flew drones over us. They had a halo camera that identified every single person that was there. But I do really think that in an age where the president of the United States is talking about locking up people for protesting, then it makes sense for us to take precautions to keep ourselves safe, so that we can ensure that our values don't just live for one day, right? And I think, don't get me wrong, I sometimes I wear it, sometimes I don't, but I think it's also important that if you do feel comfortable showing your face, that the risk that comes with, right? I show up to protests and I show my face sometimes because I think it's important that people know that I'm there. And that's not self-aggrandizing, but because I know a lot of folks in community, and I know when folks see me at the protest, they feel better, or
see, that's what I'm talking about. There's power with that.
There is. And if you go with a group of friends, you already know, right? Like it's a both and thing. So I think it's a community thing. But I always try to preach that community is undergirded by safety. So
the point about the Latin American dictatorships, that also seems like if that's what we're seeing now, the same kind of tactics in response to that, again, that feels new to me. People call Trump an authoritarian, and now we're seeing people respond in that same way. It's just it's kind of this escalating tension, back and forth, violence. I don't know. I'm seeing this in a million different ways right now. I want to talk about one other protest. So if this was day one, or you said day 0 on Wednesday was this big one, day -1 was the day before. There was another protest, didn't get even a fraction of the coverage. And maybe this speaks to the intersectionality problem that the Democrats seem to sometimes have. At the offices of Senator Michael Bennet and Senator John Hickenlooper, our two Democratic state senators in Congress, apparently a couple dozen protesters were at each on Tuesday, calling on these senators to say no to everything, was the message. And that was a very specific message that they had for our senators, to stop voting yes on any of these confirmation hearings for Trump's appointees, say no to everything. But the turnout, not so good. What do we make of this?
I mean, I think that's almost a harder thing for folks earlier to a movement to comprehend what the impact will be. And
do you think we're talking about RFK Jr. here? We know what this guy thinks.
Okay. I'm just saying the protest that we saw yesterday is much more accessible to people. It reminds me a little bit of my first interaction with a gathering like this was the Matthew Shepard Memorial after he was murdered. And that was the first time I understood the power of going to a public space to meet with other people to support something. And so I'm not saying people are dumb. I'm just saying that the 50 states protest is very clear. This is what it's about, and this is what my impact will be if I show up. And I think sometimes when they're very specific to an office or something, it's just it doesn't necessarily feel like it's for you. I know specific people that go to those protests, that go protest the offices of specific legislators. And I just think as the movements continue, maybe they grow with this, more people will start showing up, but it was early. This was like the kickoff to me of something for folks who have maybe never really participated in that before. That's my assumption. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got 2 points. One is who organizes, right? I don't know who's organizing specifically, for the Say No to Everything. I don't know who it was, if it was the Dems or what have you. But the protest yesterday was organized by a 17-year-old kid who's in a baile group who's connected to real community, right? It's not, some organization. It is not some group. It was just a spontaneous thing. And that's why we saw thousands of folks come out. That's why we saw them stay for hours, is it was not a predetermined thing. It was something that belonged to nobody, right? Nobody owns a protest. Nobody owns a movement. Nobody owns what happens there. That's the whole point. And when we try to make things, don't get me wrong, pushing our senators is an important thing to do. But I think sometimes it's a really difficult organized ask that requires a lot of political capital, that requires a lot of time and understanding to know how the federal government works, what's happening, keeping up with the hearing. For working class folks who are on social media at the end of the day, and that's how they get their news, right? They aren't keeping up with the confirmation hearing of RFK and whether our senators voted yes. They are keeping up with the images of deportations that are on their phones.
It's more accessible for more people.
I think it's an accessibility thing, and when the protest is generated from that place, yields a higher turnout. Now, don't get me wrong. I've actually been, on a similar vibe in my other job of making sure that we can make sure our U.S. senators are doing the right thing too. Both of them voted no on the Laken Riley Act, which is a terrible immigration bill that's coming through. And so there are ways that they are standing on that place. But I hope that, I hope all movements grow. And so I hope that the folks that are organizing those things don't stop and they keep going and making sure that we can get the best version of our senators out.
If I was a Democrat, that's what I'd be worried about. Because we saw these protests. We saw huge protests 8 years ago when Trump first came into office. And then we saw the same thing the Democrats always do, which is disagree and let their divisions hinder their movements. And with this one on Wednesday, it was like, I saw a lot of anger, but I didn't see a lot of like coherent messaging. Whereas that one on Tuesday was like, they had a very coherent message and it wasn't accessible, like you said. So I'm watching like how the Democrats can like manage to bring this energy into something and move forward, But anyway, let's talk about the raids themselves a little bit, because some things that happened on Wednesday were really surprising to me, I have to say. Some of this coverage was also just gut-wrenching. This Denver 7, did you all see the FaceTime video of the reporter with the young mother, 12-year-old daughter in the apartment, and then you see the ICE agents come in and start interrogating. It was just like, this was hard to watch, this stuff. This is a person just trying to live their life. Bree, what was it like watching these raids play out for you?
It was heartbreaking. I want to give a shout out. Denverite stayed at one of the apartment complexes all night with these families to document the experience of being in your own home and having agents at your door. The story that they told in the Denverite piece was a mother of a 1-year-old holding her baby and just like praying that they would go away. And I'm a parent of a 3.5-year-old. I can't imagine what that feels like. And this is what I'm talking about immobilizing other folks. Mm-hmm. Folks like me, I don't have to worry about this. The police can come to my door and I know my rights and I know what I have. But my neighbors, a lot of my neighbors don't have that. And so I think as devastating as it is that what we saw and understanding what these are people that have been through hell to get here. Reading, I'm thinking about the conversations we had with Megan Ululani Boynton at the Denver Post and the folks that she talked to, that crossing these ravines and like getting just like days and days, losing every single thing they had, losing their family members, traveling with a group of people and being the only person that survived. And then you come here and have police or ICE agents lying to you about your own rights. It's unreal to me, but I also think this is a moment where folks like me in a position of privilege are saying, this is not what my country is, and this is not how my country should be behaving, and I know I need to get educated to help people who don't have the same privileges and rights as me. And that's the hit that I took, was like, I got to step up because I have every privilege in the world. And that's what I felt when I watched these stories and reading these stories and these images of these mothers protecting their children at all costs.
Tim, anything to add on that?
I fucking hate crying on CityCast, man.
Every time, Tim.
I'm crying partly because it's really emotional to think about the human impact of these stories. FaceTime videos of people trying to communicate with their kids. And, I went and met up with one of my homegirls yesterday, and she teaches at a school that a lot of kids at the Cedar Run apartments go to. And we're talking that, I went to their school bus stop and stopped families dropping their kids off for school. There were 50 kids that are usually on the bus and only 11 came to school. And then, right, the principal is calling a meeting and telling them, hey, let families know that this is happening. And it's incumbent suddenly upon teachers to become organizers, to let their families know what's happening. And still all of this happens, and they still have school today. They still expect kids to come to school. They still, it is gut-wrenching in the micro sense, but I'm also deeply emotional because I'm really deeply angry. Specifically, I have some points I wanted to make sure I got through. But the ICE raids yesterday, they told us, were about going after criminal offenders with violent charges and all these things. They said yesterday on the press that they were going after 100 people in the Cedar Run apartments that are in some violent gang or what have you. And as of the results of yesterday, ICE has not confirmed how many people that they've actually arrested. They have only confirmed one person had a criminal charge in another country, not here. They did not commit a crime here. And they did not actually disclose who they arrested and what's happening. Kyle Clark had an excellent point yesterday that there are two goals of these raids. One is that ICE is saying that they want to arrest violent offenders. Let's be real clear. ICE is executing raids like this because they are seeking to sow fear in immigrant communities. They're trying to scare the shit out of people so that they don't go to work, so that they are counting on them not knowing their rights. So when they come to their door, they open it off of a warrant that is not signed by a judge. And I think that it's really incumbent. There was a story also earlier in the week that they're going to the homes of non-immigrant people and asking them which of their neighbors might be undocumented. Mm-hmm. They are counting on us also participating in selling out our neighbors for whatever lazy, half-ass version, bullshit justice that they think that they're fucking executing on a federal agency.
Let me actually stop you there, because I have a clip on this that, just to get us back to the policy here, because we've talked a lot about, and the Democrats, to get back to the Democrats, the argument some of our leaders here have said is they're going after the criminals first. If you've done a crime and you're an immigrant, that's who's going to be deported first, I guess, was the idea. So again, Kyle Clark, the king, he got one question with the local ICE official who was leading these raids, and I thought this was a really interesting response.
You talked about this being targeted enforcement against known individuals. We've talked to witnesses when we've reviewed doorbell camera. It seems like officers were going door to door of a number of places, which doesn't feel like targeted enforcement. Can you tell us how that worked and if you made collateral arrests of people who were simply civil violators?
I do not know about the collateral arrests. Again, those numbers are still being processed. In these apartment complexes, based on information that we have, we do know that people move different apartments.
The targeted thing, like I said, this Denverite piece just illustrated it so perfectly. It was a mother sitting in her apartment, listening to them come down every door and knock and wait for her turn. That's not targeted. That is a mass scale swarming of an apartment complex.
And it should also be said, they're just going to places they know immigrants live.
Yeah.
It is not that they know that people are identified as violent criminals and that they live here.
They're like, brown people live here.
Exactly. And
well,
it should also be undergirded.
I don't know if we know that.
But even later on in the interview, he talks about people moving apartments, and so that's why they have to go to every apartment and all this bullshit, right? It's because they are not executing targeted arrests. In fact, on 125, right, last month, a couple weeks ago, they made an arrest in Thornton in Adams County. They arrested 25 people.
The DEA,
right?
Yeah.
all of them were supposedly targeted arrests of violent offenders who had criminal charges. And it has since come out that of the arrested people, of the arrested 25 people, not a single one had a criminal charge at all. Not a single person they arrested had a criminal charge. They are not.
How do we just look at this even as just like a budgetary thing and think this is effective in any way? It just doesn't, none of it adds up to being logical.
And let me also add, when the Denver police execute a targeted arrest of a violent criminal, they don't send 30 agents with full weaponry and go door to door trying to find the person, right? When they are responding to a school shooting, they are not going and opening every single classroom to say, where is the person they are targeting? There are ways to do it. They are counting on sowing so much fear that people are unable to respond effectively and respond with their rights, with the protections that they have. And more importantly, I would also say as a caveat, right, there was a story that came out of yesterday that there were two men and one provided his documentation and he was free to go. The other one, who was undisclosed whether he was an undocumented immigrant or not, simply could not provide his documentation and was arrested. Like that is a show me your papers law that is illegal in the state of Colorado. And I think it's also really deeply important to name that this falls on the feet of Governor Jared Polis. It falls on the feet of Governor Polis. Colorado is one of the strongest states in the country when it comes to ICE protections. It is so strong that we have been labeled a sanctuary state, but the governor of Colorado went on the press and said, we are absolutely not a sanctuary state, that we are asking for the help of the federal government to deport dangerous criminals. This falls on the feet of Jared Polis, who is welcoming so much federal help that they're turning Buckley Space Force, Air Force, whatever the fuck you want to call it base, into an outdoor deportation center for people, right? Like
that they did roll back. They did roll back. Jason Crow said this week, the congressman from the District 6, he said they're not doing that anymore. But yeah, I think Polis, I would love to talk to him about this. I hope he comes on CityCast and talks to us about how he feels about immigration after so many comments supporting Trump's policies and now how we've seen them play out. We'll be watching next week as our mayor goes to Congress to answer some of these hard questions from Republicans. But listeners, we want to hear from you. What do you want us to focus on in this day-to-day whiplash politics? It's been so hard to follow. We do want to hear from you what you think. If you have any questions, we want to be of service to you right now. So 720-500-5418 is the number. Call in, leave us your thoughts. We're going to go to a quick break and come back with something else entirely.
Hey, Bree here. Have you heard about Heyday yet? Here at CityCast Denver, we're so excited to be doing our first big event. We've designed something really special, something that celebrates the city in a way unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's called Heyday, and it's kind of like a state fair, but in the city and indoors. It's for all ages, and it's full of hands-on experiences that are delightful and unexpected. Like Denver-themed balloon art, tarot readings, which are my personal favorite, vintage arcade games, and so much more. Plus, enjoy our grandstand entertainment from King Penny Radio Show, drag superstar Miss Jessica, my personal favorite Ballet Folklorico, and the list goes on. You don't want to miss Heyday. It's just $15 for adults and $10 for kids. Get your tickets now at heydaydenver.com. That's heydaydenver.com. See you there.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 312, Saturday. Reigning middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis defends his title in a rematch against Sean Strickland. And Zhang Wei Li defends her strawweight title against undefeated Tatiana Suarez. UFC 312, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
We're back. We're talking about some cool shit. It's our hot topic today. Can dinosaurs save Zeppelin Station?
Oh, goodness.
The 7-year-old food hall / hotel / co-working space / no one really knows what it is getting a top-to-bottom rebrand, according to Westward. In April, it will become a, quote, prehistoric version of Rainforest Cafe for adults with animatronic dinosaurs, an escape room, and more. They're calling it Clever Girl.
Paul, will you
that's my first.
please
Yes.
explain? Because I said to you, this is crazy. I don't understand it. And you were
Yeah.
like, duh, this is a reference.
Do you know the reference, Tim?
God,
Clever
no.
Girl?
No, Clever Girl, no.
It's from the first Jurassic Park.
Oh, jeez.
One of the characters
never
refers to a
even seen
dinosaur.
Jurassic
I
Park.
know, it's like it's a very old movie.
Yeah,
it's
I
a
never
great
seen
one.
it.
It's a great
What is the
movie.
line? Clever Girl? Yeah.
He just calls one of the dinosaurs. It's like a velociraptor busts into a kitchen, it unlocks a handle of a door, and it's very scary because they were like, "Oh, a dinosaur can open a door." And then he's
Doors
like,
were definitely
"Clever
around
girl."
during dinosaur times. That's for sure.
I
You gotta see the
think they
movie,
should have
Tim.
just
You'll
called
like the
it like
movie.
Dinosaur World, and it would have
Yeah.
been way more.
Well, that's the thing about this guy behind it. His name is Josh Schmitz. He's a young entrepreneur. I talked to him once. I think he's a really interesting guy. But he's done a few of these like IP adjacent restaurant and bar things around town. He did
Aftermarket.
Yes, he did a Wizard of Oz themed ice cream shop called Hidden Gems. He did another one called Drunken Bakery that I actually don't think was like a trademark infringement like these other ones. And then he did one called Casey Jones, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles themed pizza place.
Okay,
which-
I'm down for that. I actually
You're into
really like it.
Teenage
Does this
Mutant
still
I
Ninja?
love
exist?
Teenage Mutant
No,
Ninja
I closed it a
Oh,
couple
it's
years
like
ago.
my son
Yeah.
has a
Oh,
huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
check out the Yelp reviews, folks.
I
It did not go
love
good.
an aftermarket anything. Honestly,
I'm actually down for that. I want to eat
I'm
the
a flea
pizza that
market
was
guy.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's why.
The cartoon pizza that they had in the show was always looking great.
Real good,
It's like,
real
oh my
good.
God.
Yeah.
So are we excited about the dinosaur themed rebrand for Zeppelin Station?
It might be the first time I ever have a reason to go to a Zeppelin establishment ever in my entire life. I personally,
What, do you have something against the
maybe
family?
I just might have a problem with the.
Okay,
folks
for anyone who's
that
not
helped
listening,
fully
Mickey and Kyle
gentrify
Zeppelin own a lot of land and property in the
in the
neighborhood
area
called
that
RiNo.
people call RiNo, where all
And,
my friends were evicted.
Wherever that is.
Yeah.
Bree's made herself a public enemy of for many years.
Damn right I have, because
Go
I
ahead.
support the artists who used to live there
Mm-hmm.
before they got priced out. I mean, I love an immersive anything. I loved the rainforest.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it. I love an immersive restaurant. That's true, Paul. I love if it's
I was
Casa
like, wait a
Bonita.
second.
No, I like the cheesiness of this. I used to go to the Rainforest Cafe when there was one in the Cherry Creek Mall. I've been to the one in the Mall of America. I like when they go like full bore immersive. This is where I think Meowth kind of misses out. Is there's no animatronics.
They have the giant robots.
But I go back to the Professor of Fun conversation we had about why Casa Bonita works.
Mm-hmm.
All the illusions that make you feel like you're somewhere else. If they can do that in here, I will be there. Absolutely. It sounds awesome. Also, I love animatronics, even though I was terrified of Showbiz Pizza as a kid, and my mom had to remove me screaming and crying because the animatronics scared me so much. But I would love to see them again. And all I have to say, though, is it's a fine line with animatronics. If they are not well taken care of and operated well, they look like total shit, and it's going to look like garbage in a year. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll go to this place.
I love that. That's
I
great.
am not giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Why not?
Here's why. Because I was really fascinated with this line in a quote where the guy, whatever his name is, said,
Josh Schmitz.
inspired by Costa Rican islands. So
Oh, I missed that
I went
part.
and looked
Oh,
online
no.
and I said, did Costa Rica ever have dinosaurs? No, they didn't. Costa Rica was underwater when dinosaurs roamed the planet.
deep
This is
did
a
you
real
dig,
thing.
Tim?
Okay, so then I looked
This
up
feels
Costa
like a
Rica.
cursory Google search.
Yo, it is totally. So then I looked up Costa Rica dinosaurs. And you know what I found? In Costa Rica, there is the Dino Park Blue River Resort, which is a real place in Costa Rica that has an amusement park with animatronic dinosaurs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
So he
God.
is. He's ripping off.
He's
not-
culture vulturing.
He's not
He
ripping
is-
off. Well, he's ripping off Jurassic Park, but maybe also this thing.
Yeah, it sounds like he went on a vacation with his kids to Costa Rica and then came back to his funders like, boy, do I have a bright idea. Right? Like,
God, the
that's what
story
happened.
of America.
That's what happened. He's just ripping off a real thing in Costa Rica to make
Allegedly.
money off of rich white gentrifiers here. Like, that's my opinion. But
I'm gonna take you there,
Yeah,
Tim.
he's
Yeah.
going to make money off me, is what he's going to do. He allegedly is ripping them off. We would like to talk to Josh about this. I think it's a very interesting concept, and I'd like to know where he had the idea. Bree?
I love the quote though, where it was like, he says, the concept's gonna lean more like Casa Bonita, but imagine if it was easy to get into and had $5 margaritas. So he's just acknowledging what he's doing. Which,
Oh, yeah.
I guess, hooray for transparency.
I mean, it's kind of.
I've been waiting for someone to do it.
Seriously, like Casa Bonita, people love it. Like, why haven't there been more ripoffs
I'm
or like
surprised.
imitators? It's I mean, there was one in Salt Lake City. We've never talked about it.
The Mayan.
But our friends at CityCast Salt Lake let us know that there was in the 90s a place called the Mayan
I've watched
that had
videos
cliff
of it on
divers
YouTube.
that had basically the same thing as Casa Bonita, and the owners of Casa Bonita at that time sued them out of business.
Oh, whoa, they won?
Yes.
You know what?
The Mayan no longer exists.
I get that. I will say my only personal story is that I had 2 birthday parties at Casa Bonita when I was a kid. Best birthday parties ever. But I have not been back to Casa Bonita as an adult, and like kind of refused to, only because like look, everybody hated on the food of Casa Bonita when
I thought it was fine.
When I was 9 years old, a nacho cheese enchilada was the best thing you could get. You know what I mean?
This has been my argument, Tim. It's for children.
I can't believe we're talking about
right?
this
Like
again.
it's so anyway.
We will relitigate it till we're
so
dead.
bad. It was so bad.
I would take Casa Bonita's old food any day.
Yeah, I haven't tried the new one, but I see a lot of the tendencies that
I would
folks are
encourage
drawing
you to
on, yeah.
go. And Paul has a little tip.
Oh, well, I've been, you know me, listeners. I have been maintaining a critical distance from the new Casa Bonita, although I had a good time there. But I'm on the email list. I'm in part of the Founders Club, so I get some info from them.
Proprietary
sometimes,
us and the 40,000 other people.
Crap ton of other people. But I noticed in their most recent email, there was something a little bit different in there. They were like, hey, these are the dates we're going to announce reservations for March and April. And then they were like, but also check out the calendar. There might be some spaces free in February. And I was like, what? That's not the story that we've been hearing.
The story has been told as it's sold out.
It's been sold out for months and months and months. But then I did what they suggested, and I looked, and I said, what if me and my wife go this weekend? 2 people, looked at reservations, lots of availability.
So if you're going, I checked, I tried this. If you go up to 4 people, there's reservations available. So Tim, you can no longer have a birthday party there is what I'm saying.
Can I host my birthday party there? That's what I want to know.
With you and one special guest.
That's the bummer part. Is like we are missing that old school, like you and 20 of your elementary school friends could show up and get a table. Can't do that.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
No, that makes sense. Zeppelin Station. This is what I wrote. Zeppelin Station weird dinosaur thing is my note on it. I don't know if I'm sold yet, but I know you guys are looking forward to it.
We'll check it out. I want to talk about one more thing around this. That's just like the Brighton Boulevard factor. You know, Zeppelin Station, The Source is another Zeppelin project over there. Taxi, some people might know. This was like a big deal, I think, 10 years ago. There was a lot of focus on, you know, what if Brighton Boulevard was the next big neighborhood? And the Zeppelins, they don't actually even own Zeppelin Station anymore. They own it, but it's in receivership because they defaulted on a $32 million loan.
I saw that in the article.
Yeah. So the whole Brighton Boulevard thing, can we just is the dinosaur thing going to bring that back, or is it over? What's the deal?
It's not on Brighton Boulevard, to be fair.
It's a little bit. It's over there.
It's over in that area, but it's not on the corridor.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's in the area that people call RiNo, I guess.
I don't know if animatronic dinosaurs are enough to like revive an entire corridor. You know, like I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents.
We'll see. I don't find myself over there very often, to be honest. I think what they should do with that old Pepsi bottling plant is turn that into like a Pepsi museum. This has been one of my projects for a while, is like we need a World of Coke like they have in Atlanta, but for Pepsi here. And I think that old bottling plant, the Pepsi one, is beautiful. Beautiful building.
I don't even really like Pepsi. But I'm down for that. Yeah, I like that.
All right, listeners, let us know. Are you going to go to the dinosaur thing? Clever girl. Do you like Jurassic World? Jurassic Park? There's a new one coming out this summer.
Costa Rica Blue River ripoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So funny, Tim.
Hey, Dino Park Blue River Resort. Visit in Costa Rica. It's got great reviews on Google. That's all I'm saying. People really love it. Like locals and tourists. Like they have a spa, so I don't know. Anyway,
Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
This is all sounding good to me.
Family vacation.
All right, we're going to go to one more break, and we'll be back with our wins and fails of the week.
Can I have your attention, please? Yes, hi, Wanda Sykes here. You ever think about all the nicknames we have for breasts? Boobs, tatas, the girls, chesticles, bubbies. Heck, you might even have your own nickname for them. And yet, even though they get so much attention, they're still so ignored when it matters most. What's up with that? Well, on February 9th, tune in to see why I'm talking so much about breasts and visit yourattentionplease.com to learn more.
All right, we're back. It's time for the best way to end the week, Rocky Mountain highs and lows, aka wins and fails. We each brought a recent local something that we think is a win and something that we think is a fail. Been a lot of both this week, to be honest. It's been a really
it feels like
up and down.
It's been the longest
all
week.
Around. Bree, do you want to give us your fail?
Well, it's unfortunately related to a Trump order. Children's Hospital Colorado stops offering gender-affirming medications because of this Trump order. So Children's Hospital has ceased offering puberty blockers and hormone treatment to transgender youth because of this executive order that relates to their federal funding. Denver Post reported that about a quarter of Children's Hospital's funding comes from this federal connection. And so in order to safeguard themselves from losing that funding, they are stopping the medication side of gender affirming care. Yeah. I feel like this is a little abstract for folks that are not in this world or maybe don't have a connection. But I reached out to, we have a listener who's a parent of a trans child, and I asked her what this really meant. And she said, 3 major hospitals in Denver have shut down now. Our daughter was a patient at Children's. Our community is in shambles. I gave testimony at the Capitol today against a bill that would have allowed malpractice suits against doctors that provide gender-affirming care. So many of us, my family included, are trying to figure out how to flee. None of this seems real. So Colorado's long been a safe haven. And I think this is something I was speaking to earlier, is that it's felt like a safe haven from Trump's policies and rhetoric. And in 2023, Colorado became the first state in the country to explicitly include gender-affirming care services in insurance plans and passed a bill designed to shield transgender healthcare through legal protections. None of that matters if the funding is being threatened. And I think I just want to express to folks, healthcare shouldn't be politicized. Unfortunately, it is. Imagine if you were getting infusions or chemotherapy or something that was life-saving for you, and all of a sudden your doctor said, you can't have that anymore. You have to go somewhere else. You might have to go out of the state. This upends people's entire lives, not to mention this harms young people. And it's just a huge bummer to me that the transgender community here is no longer safe in a way that a lot of folks thought we were. They thought that that's why people were moving here. We talked about this a couple of months ago with the transcontinental pipeline. Folks were fleeing to Colorado. Colorado's no longer that place. And I think this goes back a little bit to, Tim, what you were saying with Polis and his role and how our legislators are going to react. But I just am really sorry. And my heart is with the transgender community and queer folks, and especially parents who are trying to scramble to figure out how to take care of their children right now.
Man. I mean, that's one of many fails this week. That was a big one. Honestly, There's been too many of these stories. I can't even wrap my head around them. And
I like how you phrased that, though, because I do think there's a really important point that I think a lot of people get caught up in, the what I would label the transness of gender affirming care when we're talking about healthcare,
it's
right?
It's just healthcare.
Access to medication, access to medical
help. Take the politics that you think out of it, or if you don't understand it, it's something you can't understand why people are doing this, blah blah blah. Take all that out of it and just think, what if I couldn't get access to the thing that helps me stay healthy and alive?
Exactly.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. All right, I'll go next. My fail this week is the same fail I had last week, which was the swastikas on Colfax.
Oh, yeah.
Which I talked about last week about how the whole situation made me sad. We talked about it again on Tuesday. I just want to clarify, because we got some comments. I think the thing that makes me most sad is the swastikas itself. I hate that people are feeling unwelcome from these hateful symbols in our community. It also is very depressing that the response has been violence. I think both things are bad. The core thing is bad. The knock-on effects, also bad. It all feels like escalating hate to me. But
go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say we got an email from Danon Moore at the Colfax Bid, who just wanted to send some love to the Hollywood barbershop down on the first floor of that building. Apparently, people have been associating them with this situation wrongly. They've been getting hateful calls. So, just shout out to them. They're not involved. They're just
they have nothing to do with it. They're just a business in the same building, unfortunately, with this person.
Yeah. But mostly what I wanted to share about this is an email we got this week from a listener, Elliot G, that I just thought This was a perspective I wanted to hear. Elliot wrote, first, I am Jewish. Jews, especially those of us with Jewish-sounding last names, know what discrimination feels like. I can tell you many instances when merely my last name was enough to elicit anti-Semitic hate online and in real life. This has dramatically increased in the last decade. Let's say, though, for the sake of argument, it's not a genuine Hitler-loving, Ark of the Covenant, face-melting Nazi. Ultimately, does it really matter? When it comes to public displays of hate, the intent of the person who posts a swastika on their window is heavily outweighed by the real harm it causes to anyone who passes by. If you do that, you know it's wrong, and your goal was to piss someone off with a hate-filled, racist, anti-Semitic symbol. Whether you're trolling or not is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Which is the theory that I shared on Tuesday, was that I think this is a troll. I don't know anymore. We heard some rumors about who this person was. I don't have any more thoughts on this, honestly. Just sad about the whole thing still.
Yeah.
I just don't like that people have to feel unsafe in our city in any capacity when it's something that we can't pinpoint who's doing this or why they're doing it, but they're doing it for a reason and it's hurting people. I have a friend, a Jewish friend, who said, this is the first time in my entire life that I've ever felt afraid to be publicly, just be myself as a Jewish person. Like,
That's
she was
so
like,
hard
I
to
don't
hear.
wear my Star of David necklace anymore. She even polices the way that she talks. And that's just not the world that we want to live in. And it just throws me back to the 90s in Denver. Like, the KKK stuff is not that far gone. Like, the presence was real here in Colorado. It has been for decades. And I think that when it bubbles up to the surface again, it's just a reminder that, like, how do we show up for our neighbors? Regardless of how different they are from us or what their experience is, what are we doing to show up? Yeah. How are we showing people that that's not a target at me, but that's a target at someone I love? How do I show up for them in a real way?
I don't know if we explicitly said, but somebody knocked out the windows. Did you guys see that
Yeah,
part?
the smashing.
The second half of the story.
And there was another smashing, actually. There was someone smashed the first swastika, and then the person put up 2 more swastikas and some smiley faces. And then I saw there was another window that was smashed that was actually on the second floor. So someone didn't get their height quite right. So, yeah, I mean,
it sucks for everybody else in that building, too.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
everything about this sucks. Everything
It's tough.
sucks. Send us more comments about this. I know people are feeling all sorts of ways about this. Seriously, I loved reading the emails. Some of them were critical. I really do appreciate the feedback. Anyone, email us, call in, text. You know how to reach us. Tim, give us your fail.
Oh, man. My fail is about public health and harm reduction. I don't know if you saw, but the Denver City Council passed a needle exchange bill, which would have,
weeks ago,
I don't know if you guys reported on it.
We did. And then the mayor's veto.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was sent back to council this week, and council declined to take an override vote, which to me is not a bad thing inherently, but it is a fail. It's an opportunity for us to go on the record and remind the mayor once again that the majority of the council is not in line with that opinion. The bill came from public health experts. It came from people who know that this is a harm reduction tactic that keeps people alive. And I think that people got way too into the political weeds, specifically the mayor and the folks who voted against, and they got into this like, oh, well, what about syringe sites by schools? And these like talking points when we're talking about people having access to safe things that keep them alive. They do not make communities more dangerous. Yeah. And I think that, council declining to take an override vote is, they didn't have the votes to pass an override. Don't get me wrong. I think that that's also a clear thing.
No one changed their minds.
Nobody's changing their minds, but it does signal to the mayor that we're going to take this to the fullest extent because we're willing to turn over every stone to keep our neighbors alive. Right. Yeah. To me. And even if we can't, pass the vote or all these other things, to me, it signals to the public health experts. It signals to the community. It signals to people that I love who use banned drugs. Right. That, that we're willing to take it to the fullest extent. So that way, when it comes back next time, as I hope it does, we're willing to keep turning those things over. So I was a little disappointed that council declined an override vote. And more importantly, that the mayor vetoed it. So.
Well, we are planning to talk to him about that as soon as we can.
Ask him about it.
We have been working on setting a time with them. We keep getting it pushed back, but we are going to ask him about that veto. The letter he wrote had some interesting notes. We're going to talk to him about it when we can.
Good.
Let's talk about some wins, some good stuff. I'm desperate for this. What are the wins? Tim, give us a win.
Man, there's a win happening tonight if it's Friday. Tonight is the night of Palateros in Westwood, which is a real wonderful community event organized by Julio Mendoza and folks at Revision and the Westwood community. Over on Morrison Road at Revision, they're going to be having essentially what I'm understanding to be like a Palatero car show where a bunch of local artists, including Daniel Seawalker, Julio made one, and a lot of other folks, basically pimped the rides of palateros, right, which are like Mexican ice cream folks that ring the bells and they say palatero, paleta, paleta, right? And they pimped them out, and simultaneously they're going to debut them, the local artists that worked on them, and also the beautiful part of the project is that Westwood youth in the community through a History Colorado project actually interviewed the palateros in Westwood. And so it'll be a way of sharing the stories of immigrant workers, of Mexicano workers in Westwood. But it's also a really, really wonderful event. It's the first time it's ever happening. And so I'll be there. And I'm really looking forward to being in community space with folks.
I assume there will be paletas
there?
for me to eat at this event.
For sure.
There better be, yeah.
Just had to confirm. The art sounds great and all, but I want to have some sweet treats.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'll have to take
I'm
my
there for the
son. He'll be
treats.
so excited.
It's going to be real cool. And I've seen some of the artists post about it and the designs and stuff like that. I'm really looking for. And the cool part that I'm cool with Julio, and he had told me that actually the palateros will get to keep the carts.
Oh,
and
cool. So you'll see him around the neighborhood.
They'll still be around all summer driving a pimped out palatero.
I love that.
So it'll be real cool. Come through. It starts at 6 p.m. In Westwood over at Revision.
We'll put a link in the show notes. That sounds great. Bree, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my win is just the community. I think on the positive side of all of this conversation about protests is like, I said, I've seen more people out in the streets and talking about this on social media than I've ever seen before. People I've never heard talk about politics. I think the 1,800 people showing up to the Know Your Rights seminar at AME Shorter Church the other night was a huge indicator that folks are willing to engage and also are just dying to understand and feel informed about how they can support their neighbors. And I think more people speaking out against ICE than I've ever seen, people that I've never seen talk about law enforcement ever, I'm hearing from. And I just think that it's the positive side of this is the people coming together and the fact that we're maybe going to be more unified than we have been in the last 20 years around some of these issues, especially if we saw that many folks coming out for an immigrants' rights protest. I'm just really impressed. I think Denver is showing up, the folks that are showing up to volunteer to help be the sort of go-betweens with these ICE raids, folks that are just showing up to witness. This is a huge thing to me, and I don't want that to be lost in this depressive, scary, terrifying information that we're getting bombarded with every day. People are also showing up. So I think Denver and the metro area is doing a great job, and I just hope that we continue to build on that.
Yeah.
Great win, Bree.
Beautiful.
That was energizing. It was nice to see people out and excited.
And actually, I was there on Monday too, and was really moved to see so many. I mean, it was standing room only in Shorter AME Church. I had to park my lowrider down the block.
That's a big church.
It's a gigantic church, and it was fun. And I don't know if you saw, they had a Spanish only session as well. So like specific for folks, and in the Spanish only session, they're like, send me a picture of the flyer. I'll put it in my WhatsApp group chat. So like the information is getting to real people who need it too. So it's wonderful organizing.
Yeah. Sorry, you said you parked your lowrider?
Oh, yeah.
What are you driving these days?
Oh, man, I can't say that on the radio. But know that it's sick and it's down.
Tell me afterwards. I'm
Paul,
curious.
what about you?
All right, my win. I'm actually now sad to leave this to the end because this is such a tepid win. It's like we have to recognize it as a win.
I know. I feel like it just needs to be for the record.
It happened. We need to talk about it. I think it's a win for the mayor. He said when he was running for mayor, he wanted to help get this done. And
he did.
What happened is Comcast and Altitude, the companies that have been in this 6-year dispute over the Nuggets and the Avalanche being on TV, well, not being on TV, have come to an agreement where these businesses decided they are better off making money together and putting the games on TV.
Yeah, watching the MVPs of the NHL and NBA who both play in the same city on TV.
Lucky us.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's also like particularly tepid for me because Altitude, like the market has changed. The market for TV broadcasting has changed in these 6 years. And these products, like they're not... I think both sides thought that what they were offering was much more valuable than the other side was. That's why it was such a big dispute. And so like back in October, what I thought was the most exciting, probably the actual end of this dispute was Altitude launched a direct to consumer product called Altitude Plus, where they sold subscriptions, $20 a month, where you could pay and see every game. Nuggets, Avalanche, every game, and then they also were putting 20 games from each team on TV on like the local NBC affiliate. Now what they're offering is a deal through Xfinity where you can purchase a add-on bundle, and good Lord, this is boring, but it's going to cost $16 a month starting in April. So starting for the playoffs, in addition to what you're already paying. So it's $20 a month in October, and now the new thing is a $4 per month discount to get this bundle.
Shout out to business.
That's the big celebration this week.
I think they realized enough people were getting VPNs and bypassing this and watching the NBA League Pass and watching all
I can neither confirm or deny if I've ever illegally streamed it.
I am with you. I am with you.
Everyone
Tim,
I know.
may or may not be watching this anyway, whether Comcast is involved or Altitude's involved or not.
Yeah,
I can neither confirm or deny if I will still watch the games that way.
Ditto.
Seriously, again,
Yeah,
I mean,
I may or
people
may
have their
not be-
habits.
Changing my habit.
All right. Well, you two have made your criminal activities clear.
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
Yeah. Fair enough. Allegedly, I may not or may. I don't know.
Here's what I want to put a call out for is some enterprising young reporter, get us the numbers on these. Like, what are the subscriber numbers for all these packages? I want to know what actually these two companies were fighting over for 6 years. Like, what was the amount of money? What
that they
were the
wanted
numbers?
that they weren't getting?
We never heard any of the numbers, and I want to know the
Paul.
numbers. What was this worth to not have our championship runs on TV in all the bars around town to celebrate for this together? Anyway, that's a win. A win for the mayor, I think.
A win is a win.
For the
A win is a win.
A win is a win.
A win is a win.
There you go. Thank you, Tim. And that's the show for us this week. Tim Hernandez, thanks so much for coming back.
Thanks. I appreciate y'all. Always good to start my mornings with y'all.
Thanks, you guys.
See you next week.
Peace.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Selena C.A. Reynolds, Anthony Luciani, Olivia Jewell-Love, and me, Paul Carolla. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver, and tell Josh Schmitz about us the next time you see him and his animatronic dinos. If you love the show, come see us in person at Heyday. It's an indoor fair with a distinctly Denver twist on Saturday, March 8th. Get your tickets now at heydaydenver.com. You can sign up for that daily newsletter I mentioned and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. Bye. See you next week. Do y'all want to hear some of the other intros JD pitched? Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the podcast that wants to make John Elway the Broncos quarterback again. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the podcast that only has one big question about ice: cubed or crushed? Oh, no. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the podcast that doesn't know how it's going to get enough protein because eggs are too expensive. All right, here's my favorite one that's also quite explicit. Welcome back to CityCast Denver. Fuck you, Salt Lake City. Thanks, JD, for the jokes. Those are all really good.